Today, you're going to learn about two awesome new features from Adobe Experience Design. Before we begin, this video sponsors HelloSign, which offers an API that helps companies grow revenue faster by automating document workflows with a developer-friendly e-signature API that makes it simple and easy to embed secure and legally binding documents directly into your website. G2 Crowd says HelloSign's API is 2 times faster to implement than any other e-sign provider. You or your devs can send your first API call in minutes, and your app certification is always free, and you won't find an e-signature product with an easier path to implementation. All right, let's get back to it. Hey everyone, Gary Simon of Corsetro. So just yesterday, Adobe released a brand new update for Adobe Experience Design, and it has about 3, 4, or 5 different new features, but there's 2 of the biggest ones that I'm gonna focus on in this video. So the first one is responsive design. So when you're working within the design tab and you're creating a UI design for perhaps a mobile layout and then also maybe a tablet and a desktop version, you know that traditionally you're going to have to manually change the placement of each of your UI elements between all of those artboards. But now with this responsive design option, it cuts out almost all of that work. So it's very handy. And then the second feature I'm going to cover works in the prototype tab, where in the trigger type, instead of just a tap or a click or whatever to transition you from one artboard to the other, now you can choose time, where you can specify a duration from which a given artboard will sit there for that duration of time, and then it'll transition to a new artboard. And this opens up different possibilities for different use cases, and I'll show you one while we work here. All right, so for today's question, which prototyping tool are you using these days? Because this year in particular has been insane with all the different prototyping tools coming out, which is awesome. But I'm just curious, in this given month, what you're currently using. I'll leave my answer in the first pinned comment here. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so after updating, go ahead and open it up, and we're gonna choose, let's just do iPhone X right here, and let's get started. So I have my layers visible here. What I'm going to do here, just real quickly, again, this is gonna be ultra simple. It's not gonna be the greatest design you've ever seen, because I just wanna demonstrate exactly what the new features are. So I just have a nav bar right here. I'm gonna real quickly put in a just a fictional type-based logo, of course using Montserrat, my most favorite font. And I know many people just watch my videos just so they can see me use this font in every video. All right, so we have our logo here. Let's put a Hamburger Menu really quickly. So let's get that scaled down. We'll get just the fill. Control D, Control D, Control D. I'm sure this is too big. Get this in the middle. All right, that looks pretty good. And then we'll take all 3 of these shapes and then group them, Control G. All right, after that, we're going to excuse me, we're going to have just a hero section here. So we'll take the rectangle tool, left click, drag out something right around there, and we'll go ahead and I'm going to go to Google Images real quickly. Let me get this up here. And I'm going to type in images.google. We're going to type in mountains. And then I'm going to go to settings, tools rather, usage rights, labeled for reuse with modification. And I think this one here is pretty good. It's 1200 pixels is pretty much exactly what I would use. I'm going to drag this onto my desktop and then just drag it into here. Awesome. So now let's say we want to have a headline and a sub-headline on here. Before I do that, I want to darken up this background, or darken up this image. So one way to do that is I'll just hit Control D to duplicate it, and then change the fill to black, and then take the opacity down. That way we'll have more contrast for the foreground elements. And I'm going to left click here and just type in mountains. Captivating, isn't it? And then I'm going to duplicate that, Control D, and then I'm going to type in, and we'll keep caps on, and other majestic stuff. All right. Then we'll go ahead and make this just regular. Come down like that. Maybe we'll go to 30. And I'm not going to spend too much time, because now at this point we do have a fair amount of elements that are just pretty typical standard elements that are a part of a mobile UI. So at this point, let's assume you filled out the rest of the page with whatever content there is, and now you have to duplicate this for maybe a tablet size. So how do you go about doing that? Well, typically before this update, you would have to, which we're still going to do this, you would probably start with a new artboard, and maybe you wanted to start with an iPad Pro 10.5 inch. All right. What you would do is take everything. Now, before we begin this process, though, let's group things up. I'm going to create two different groups. One's going to be these three elements, and I'm going to hit Control G. And then also this section down here, I'm going to hit Control G. All right. So we would duplicate this, Control D, and just move it over into this new artboard. And we would scale it out, and when we would scale it, it would be in such a way, don't ungroup it, but I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes, it would work in such a way where everything would start to scale, and it wouldn't be very easy because you would have to restructure everything and reposition things manually for it to be, for it to fit in this new viewport. But what we're going to do is just take a look at some of these new properties that are here. So we're going to see real quickly, we have responsive resize, all right? So by default, we could see that it's checked on, and we have auto and manual. And manual has these different icons right here. And the ones that are highlighted means they're activated. So for this whole group, for instance, it's saying everything's fixed right, left, and top, and with a fixed height. This is where you have to pay attention to, because right now it's on the group. What we want is to make sure each one of these elements are exactly what they need to be in order for this responsive portion to work correctly. So what I mean by that is, let's say, for instance, well, we have to ask ourselves, how do we want this to behave in terms of being responsive? Should the text get larger, and should this text stick to the right, or should it go to the center? So here's what we do. When you double click into the group, we have access to each individual object here. So the first thing we'll look at is the type. The type, if we go to manual, you'll see that automatically it knows it's intelligent enough to know that because we position it to the left, it has it at fixed left. All right. Also, it has it a fixed width and a fixed height. That means it's not going to scale if we take this whole group and scale it in the iPad artboard. So we could just uncheck both of those. Now let's make sure this has the same settings as well. All right. Now we'll take both of these elements right here. This is the top one that just has some opacity to it. We're going to take a look at this, and we definitely don't want a fixed width or fixed height. And this works well as just having all of these activated. And you want to make sure this one matches up as well, and it does. Great. So then we'll take a look at this group over here. This one for the header, we definitely want, or the navigation bar rather, we definitely want us to have a fixed height because we don't want the height to expand. It can stay the same across all the devices. So we're going to keep that checked on. Fixed width doesn't make sense because we want it to expand, obviously, with the viewports. Then we'll take a look at the type, and this should be fixed left. And we'll keep it a fixed width and fixed height. And then also the icon menu, and that's fixed right with a fixed width and fixed height. So now we have our two groups still. Let's go ahead and duplicate those. Control D. And now let's take both of these and expand them and see what happens. So I was holding shift by accident. But as you can see, it's working pretty well. One thing I didn't do, which I screwed up, is this right here. You have to take a look at the properties that are also associated with the group itself. Fixed height was on, so I couldn't expand that. That's why the height of that particular container was not changing. This one as well is fixed height. That's what we do want for that container. So Control D again. Now let's take the whole thing. Both of them are selected, and you can see how it now responds pretty much perfectly, and we're only going to have to make minor adjustments. I would probably want to take this just for this particular viewport and push it over a little bit more like that. And that's it. So obviously it's a time saver. It really helps you. One thing it doesn't do, like for instance, if you hit play and you try to expand this window, it's not going to be responsive in the preview or when you go to run the prototype. This is just for the design tab, and it's to help you save time. And obviously it does exactly that. So it's pretty awesome. We could demonstrate this one more time just by taking a new artboard, and let's see here. We'll choose Web 1920 just to go even larger. We'll duplicate this. And there we go. Awesome, awesome stuff. Okay, so I wanted to now demonstrate the second new feature. All right, so what we'll do is we're going to delete both of these. And one of the official examples that Adobe uploaded to demonstrate this feature was kind of like a feature tour walkthrough. And this new feature basically it works in the prototype tag, and it allows you to specify a timed sort of animation based on when exactly it will go to a new artboard. So instead of a tap-based event where you're clicking on something and it takes you to a new artboard, you can now specify a time or a delay from which it will sit on an artboard and then transition to the next. So this has a lot of different use cases, but a great use case here is to do kind of like a feature walkthrough where when you're on your phone, you start a new app and it's highlighting different parts of the UI. And usually it'll do this, based on a time, like a couple seconds between each little walkthrough. So just to demonstrate that real quickly, let's go ahead and I'm going to take a rectangle tool and just put it on top of everything, and we'll make it black with a lower opacity. And that's kind of a typical convention when it comes to these feature walkthrough sort of things. And then what we'll do real quickly, and I'm not going to spend much time on, making everything look great here. I'm just going to feature, first we're going to say this is the menu. Captivating stuff. Where is the menu? I'm just going to drop that, drag that to the top. And the menu itself, this time we'll just make black. All right, and then we'll say real quickly, this is our menu. We'll take both of that and we're going to write a line and we'll scale down. We'll just put that right there. So that's going to be the first one. And then the second one, we'll go ahead and we'll say, we'll delete this, make that white again. Except this time we'll just drop this back into group 2. And then over here, we'll left align this text and we'll say, this is our logo. And then I'll go ahead and we'll go to group 1, logo right here. We'll push this to the top. We'll make it black. We're almost done. And we'll take just a rectangle this time. We'll make it rounded. And then we'll position this underneath that. Okay, not the best, greatest looking feature walkthrough, but you get the idea. So then finally, I'm just gonna take this, make this white again, get rid of this, and then we just go back to our regular UI. So now in the prototype section, the part that's new is when we create these connections, the trigger, we have a new trigger called time. So the delay, we simply specify maybe 2 seconds. All right, we'll do the same thing here real quick. And let's hit play. 2 seconds, 2 seconds, and there we go. We're back at it again. And a better convention for a real actual feature walkthrough would to be create like a skip button or something like that would take you directly here, which you could do, of course, in conjunction with this timed animation. So this could also be useful for situations where an app is first loading and there's going to be some time. You could present sort of that, what's going to look like what is there, like some type of spinner graphic or something. Although I don't think. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think animation in terms of like importing animated GIFs or animated SVGs or graphics is supported currently, but still, you could at least show what it would look like in a static sense. All right, guys, so hopefully you found that useful. Make sure you answer today's question, which is, which prototyping tool are you using these days? All right, if you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you with more videos. Goodbye.